Is Sirius and XM, are they still a thing?
I think they're the same thing. Oh, they're still a thing.
Well, I know they joined, but like...
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, I think my dad's truck is like still on like a promotion for it when he got it. They still get it. We listened to it while I was in Virginia.
Weird.
My mom, she bought it for years and years. It's like AOL.
Oh, you just kind of forget that you...
You forgot. She totally forgot she was having it. So she was spending maybe like $100 a year, which like, it was not that much, but clearly if you never use it. And she was like, you guys showed me what an auxiliary cord is, and so I just listen to music like that.
Right.
It's like, way to go, Mom.
You and everyone else in the country, except for the 5 people that still have Sirius.
Right. And they probably also have America Online, so... All right, and because 3 is a crowd, I'm here today once again in the apartment. Beautiful summer weather, just cold rain all day, every day.
Thanks, bro.
I'm here with Kelly. Kelly, how's it going?
Oh, it's good. It's raining.
It's good. It's raining.
Which means traffic, which is your favorite.
Yeah, it was really just a wonderful day in Portland. If you're a driver in Portland, please be courteous. Please treat stop signs with respect. Watch everybody obey traffic laws, please. That would be great. And if you're a kid running around listening to this podcast right now, please look both ways and just go home. That would probably be the best. All right, so we are here today to talk about, this is our 16th episode. We're here today to talk about Hard Times in New York Town. Written probably 60, if not before, but recorded on a bootleg, if you will, in 1961. I guess they're all sort of bootlegs. There's no real official recording of this, but the version that we listened to on the bootleg series, volume 1 through 3, was from 1961. And then we listened to the one on the Whitmark demos, which is probably right around that time too. He recorded probably right after the release of Bob Dylan, his first record. And then one that's not on the playlist, but is from Cynthia Gooding's Folk Singer's Choice bootleg, which I think maybe is the title of the show that she was doing as well. So that's from that from January of 1962. So those were our touchstones. Before we play the song, Kelly, how'd you feel about it?
I love this song. It's maybe my favorite one we've listened to so far. This is the only one I actually caught myself singing, like while it was like stuck in my head kind of thing, like just tooling around, which makes me really, really enjoy it.
Come here, ladies and you gentlemen, and listen to my song. Sing it to you right, but you might think it's wrong. Just a little glimpse of a story I'll tell about an East Coast city that you all know well. It's hard times from the country, living down in New York town. Old New York City is a friendly old town. From Washington Heights to Harlem on down. There's a mighty many people in the middle and all around. They'll kick you when you're up and knock you when you're down. It's hard times.
All right, so this week, and I don't know if it's just me or if it's just the way that I choose to see the podcast in our world and random.org and how everything comes together, but I found it in a way that out of the deep, dark recess of the earth that we had to pull ourselves out of, which was Dylan and the Dead, I finally saw the light, which was, what a crazy song to get. One of his very, very earliest, 1961. He was playing this before Bob Dylan, before he even recorded Bob Dylan. And then we're buttressing this at the end of this episode where we talk about his Nobel Prize for Literature in 2017. So we're taking the earliest recording and then his latest thing. It's kind of crazy when you think about it, to go from Bonnie Beecher's apartment in 1961 to Los Angeles, June 4th, 2017. And also, really, the whole arc of the song is kind of that, when I leave New York, I'll be standing on my feet. It's crazy how it all sort of worked out. I mean, I'm sure there's so many sort of gosh darn New York type songs, but how many actually in the end actually transcend the sort of the New York sort of hustle, I think most people probably get subsumed by it. Most people get chewed up and spit out. And I don't know. Did Bob Dylan? I don't think so, which is kind of a crazy thought.
That line specifically might be my favorite line. That and then
feels good. Good to hear.
It sounds great. Everything about it. This song is 2 minutes long, which I love. It's stupid catchy. The piano. Whoa, guitar work is nice. Like the picking is not super technical, but it's like has enough of a musicality to it that it's interesting to listen to.
I feel like each 3 versions too have a little bit of a different vibe to it.
Yeah,
and that's also talked about too in how he was when he played it the first time. Went to New York, recorded his first record, came back to Minnesota, played the song again. There was a noticeable difference even then. We don't have those tapes from before, or at least I don't. And I don't know if they've been released yet, but apparently people do have them and are trying to sell them for lots and lots of money. So someday we will hear those, but apparently, this kid who was playing this guitar, it just got better and better. And I feel like all of these versions, it's hard to tell a progression just by listening to 3 at once unless you put it back to back, chronologically. But I think each of them have a kind of a different vibe. And I think you can just taste wise go, well, that's better or worse. But I'm sure if you listen to it in a row, it would be technically more proficient each time.
That might be true. I didn't
really
notice that often. Like the tempo is faster, and the one that we had second on our playlist, which I guess is the
Whitmark demo.
That one. Mm-hmm. And then
and that one's supposed to be slow. That was recorded just for people to listen to record themselves. So he was probably enunciating more than he ever did for any songs at that time. Not that he wasn't able to be heard, but in all of those recordings, it's pretty stark where it's just him and a guitar, but he's playing everything correctly because he needs to, because he's doing it for publishing. He's trying to get people to sing that song.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So all of those are just for other people to hear, so they can go and they know the lyrics and they know the melody and they know the chords because they can hear it. And so, yeah. So that song was one that Peter, Paul, and Mary could have done, if they listened to it, and then they would just go, and then Dylan would get a cut. Grossman would get a cut. Columbia would get a cut. And then he released Freewheelin' Bob Dylan, and then it was over. So he just did his own stuff from there. So
that's really interesting. So
that's why that one is a little bit different than the others. And then the one that's live, the one on Folk Singer's Choice, I might like the best because it's even though the other ones were kind of live, that was the last version, if you will. There might be other times he played it, but that was definitely the last time in our listens. And then after 1962, it was pretty much gone. He never really touched it again. So, and it wouldn't actually be copywritten until 1991 with the release of the Bootleg Series Volume 1 through 3. So it was just kind of sitting in a weird spot where it was a part of the bootleg culture until it wasn't. It was officially a bootleg. So
that one's brighter. The Cynthia Gooding one, it's like the key I think is different.
Yeah, and
it just feels like kind of happier, which is why it's my least favorite. Actually, my favorite is the slowest one.
Yeah,
it actually has an extra verse in it. That's the only time is that verse appears.
Yeah, the verse is the weak and the strong, the rich and the poor, gathered together in room for no more, crowded up above and crowded down below. Someone disappears, you'll never even know. Yep. It's hard times, yeah. I got a book while I was in Virginia a couple weeks ago called Song of the North Country, a Midwest Framework to the Songs of Bob Dylan, by David, I'm going to say Pitchke. I might be wrong about that. But he notes the class distinctions, and we get the Mr. Rockefellers, the Mr. Empires who sit on the perch, while New York is a town of kickers and the kicked. And so Dylan is obviously identifying with the kicked as the poor in the country. And I think really those lines, the weak and the strong, the one that we just went over, I think that probably susses that out even more. It's like, here's the poor, here's the rich. And if one of the poor is missing, you'll never even know because there's so many more of us than them. And I think the same thing happened with like Woody Guthrie songs where This Land Is Your Land has tons of lyrics that if you were to go to like a grade school in Iowa, you wouldn't sing some of the lyrics because they're radical. They're radical conceptions of what freedom actually is and freedom for who and what is private property and what is our property. And these are things that in the sanctified, just sing about Oklahoma and California, just tell us how beautiful the land is. That version is the
one we use in Coca-Cola commercials.
Right. And then there's the one that's a radical concept. And I think that this is kind of the same thing. And, this all comes from Down on Penny's Farm. By the Bentley Boys.
It's the same song with different lyrics.
It's kind of crazy that it's the same song. I mean, the first verse is literally the same.
Come you ladies and gentlemen, listen to the song. Sing it to you right, but you might think it's wrong. May make you mad, but I mean no harm. It's just about the renter's on Penny's farm. It's the hard times in the country out on Penny's farm. You move out on Penny's farm, plant a little crop of bagger and a little crop of corn. Come around and see you gonna flit and plot till you get yourself a mortgage on everything you got. It's a hard times in the
Why do you think he kept that in, the country thing? Because if you're talking specifically about a metropolis like New York, why would you say in the country? I guess you could extrapolate that to me. Well, yeah, that's true. But like you could extrapolate that to mean literally America, like a hard time in the country of America.
Yeah, I think that that's a good reading. I think that it's also the idea of like a Midwesterner in a way coming to the big city, you know, being like completely awed by it, and then sort of still trying to conceptualize it as a small place, like the country and the town. And
Gotcha.
I'm just in the hamlet of New York City.
Right, that's your vernacular.
I know my neighbors.
I'm in the country.
Yeah, I have 100,000 neighbors. I got to get to know each one of them. Again, it's one of those weird ones where it's like, why isn't it there? And then it's not in the lyrics either. So why the omission? I don't know.
But it's good. It's my favorite one.
Yeah.
What's the line? It's one of the songs we already did, and I don't remember. Where he's like, "Don't ask me nothing, I might tell you the truth" or something.
Yeah, Outlaw Blues.
Yeah. Those two, that line, and then when I leave New York, I'll be standing on my feet. I don't know. Out of context, it doesn't sound. When I leave New York, I'll be standing on my feet. Doesn't sound so like powerful, like empowering.
Yeah.
But when he sings it in the song after this, that's the last line of the song.
Yeah.
That's not the chorus kind of thing, but yeah.
So I mean, this is very much like this could be a Woody Guthrie song, you know, in that same vein.
Yeah.
So I see why Bob Dylan would have picked up on it and been like, yeah, it's cool. I like it. I'm going to take it. Which taking is something that we're definitely going to discuss this entire episode.
Don't ask me nothing about nothing. I just might tell you the truth.
We did want to talk about New York, though.
That was a big theme this week. Go figure.
That was a big theme this week. We definitely poured ourselves into our Spotify playlist, which is excellent, and we'll talk about that later. Long. It's almost 2 hours long. So if you want New York stuff, unique stuff from our brains, go ahead and head over there. I guess it's not unique. I wonder how many playlists about New York would feature all the songs that we had. Probably a lot. So it's not that unique. You know what? Just skip it. Go to next week.
Oh my God.
But anyways, I tasked you last week with a history of New York. So now that we know how much we like the song and all this kind of stuff, I need to get my head around, you know, this Mr. Rockefeller, this empire, you know, who are these people that are buying this land? So I was like, I want to know about the Dutch, yo. I want to know what's going on in New York.
Be prepared to be disappointed. Guess what I didn't talk about at all? Rockefeller or... There's
a
person named Empire?
No.
Oh,
Mr. Empire is us. It's the U.S.
Okay,
no, that would be amazing. If your name was Mr. Empire, there can't be a Mr. Empire.
There might be.
Ooh, I hope not. Anyways, so yeah, Rockefeller's later. I want the Dutch. That's what I want. I want the beginnings of New York. We know what's going on now. I think we all have an idea of what New York is in our head. So let's take us back.
All I have to say to you is, what was once New York, or is now New Amsterdam, or the other way around? You know, that's all.
Even old New York was once New Amsterdam. Why they changed it, I can't say. People just liked it better that way. So take me back to Constantinople. No, you can't go back to Constantinople. Been a long time gone.
Henry Hudson, right?
Henry Hudson, the Hudson River.
In 1609, he found, quote, found Manhattan, also known as Manhattan, that was previously inhabited by Algonquin Native American tribes.
I've learned so much already.
There were 2 different ones, and I can't remember either of their names. So Lenape is one. Boom.
Nice.
And I don't remember the other ones. That dude was from the East India Company, which I guess is a big effing deal in Europe, right?
Huge effing deal.
I've heard it before. Whatever. Who cares? They have a lot of ships. They do sailing things. This guy, Hudson, comes, finds, again, quote, Manhattan, and then goes back and is like, yo, Dutch King guy, there is some cool stuff in Manhattan. There's hills, and he goes on like waxing poetic about how more bountiful, and there's timber that you can do all kinds of things that you use timber for with. So
like build ships.
Yeah. That's probably relevant to a company that sails.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So the Dutch king, sure, tells...
King Sure.
Yeah, Dutch
like
King
Mike
Sure.
Schur's like great grandpa.
I think so.
Okay.
Let's Hudson form, or maybe it just forms around the West India Trading Company, right? To pursue, what else? Beaver. Because apparently Beaver also all over Manhattan, which is why the Lenape and were there, because the fur game was on point. So in 1624, 30 Dutch families should just roll up into Manhattan and like, hey, Hudson told us this was the place to be. Meanwhile, the Lenape are like, what the fuck are you doing here? Please get out of here. So they don't do that. They stay because they're white, and that's what we do. We're here now. This is ours. But the Dutch buy, quote unquote, in 1626.
Oh, they buy.
They buy Manhattan. I guess it was rumored that it was like they bought it for $24. Like that's the Snopes thing about it. You know, what's the word I'm looking for? Urban legend is that they bought it for $24 of beads.
Oh.
But Hudson went back and told all his buddies that this place is amazing. And this guy, Minuet, who's in our song,
Yes.
is the one that brokers the deal. It was actually 60 whatever Dutch money was. I'm going to say shekels. It wasn't shekels. 60 Dutch shekels, which equivalent to like $1,000 today. So they bought it for $1,000, which again is robbery.
Yeah. I think any price is robbery when you don't. No one owns it.
Yeah, exactly. We've bought it from the Lenape. We're still pissed, but it's whatever. They're selling their beaver. We're selling our beaver. Everything's fine. And then New York happens because later. But there's windmills, right? There's 36 bars. Things are popping off in New Amsterdam.
36 bars.
There's 36 bars, taverns.
Nice.
Yeah, you gotta have priorities, man.
Yeah,
we got some windmills because we're Dutch, and we got bars because we're also Dutch. I don't know. This guy Jonas Bronx shows up. Sound familiar? The Bronx. What's up? He buys a bunch of what are called protrusion chips, which is just a fancy word for a tract of land. And yeah, that becomes the Bronx. Wilhelm Kiff, sure. He becomes the leader of New Amsterdam. He builds a wall to keep out, the savages, which are known as the people who rightfully own the land, but that's fine. What does that wall turn into? Wall Street, friend.
Oh.
Wall Street. Let's commemorate the punishing of Native Americans by building our financial institution along this street. Yes.
Well, I think that was done very much on purpose.
Probably. Oh, God. So Peter Stuyvesant was peg-legged because he got shot by a cannon. Who doesn't that happen to? He takes over New Amsterdam. Everybody's like, this guy's doing good, he's not trying to, everything's cool, not obsessed with building walls. Everything is going great. We're drinking, we're smoking. Hold up. Stuyvesant is not a great guy. He wants to outlaw people, and by people I mean, smugglers and drunks, and that's fine or whatever, but also Jews and Quakers gotta go. So...
Well, the Quakers then went to Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
And Lutherans. Also, gotta go.
Well, duh.
So, everybody's like, guess what? Actually, while you weren't paying attention over the last 40 years, people here aren't really even Dutch anymore. We're kind of from everywhere, so we can't.
But we're not Indian. Don't get that twisted.
Thank God. So, guess who shows up at the door? King Charles the second or third? Who knows? Second, sure. One of the Charleses sends a fleet of ships. It's like, hey, we noticed that you're not taking care of your stuff very much. You don't really have any defenses. We were wondering if we could just take this from you. And by wonder, I mean we're going to take this from you. So not a single shot is fired. But the English now control New Amsterdam. And the person who conquered it, because King Charles was his brother, was the Duke of York. And now we have New York instead of New Amsterdam. Because the Dutch, or the people that were in New Amsterdam, did not want to fight for the sake of this guy who was an asshole trying to kick all their friends out anyway.
Right.
So that's it. That's the history
they just took it. They didn't pay.
No, they just took it. They're like, hey, we're going to kill you.
Or
you can just give this to us. And they're like, nah, that sounds fair.
It seems like a pretty square deal.
Yeah, you can stay here and live and do all the things. You're just going to do it for us now.
That's fair. That's fair. All right. And that's New York.
That's New York.
That's that Empire State of Mind. Yeah. All right. So before we finish on Hard Times in New York Town, any final thoughts on lyrics, anything like that?
I didn't really write any lyric notes because it's all pretty straightforward, other than learning about Mr. Minuet.
Yeah.
Didn't know that was fascinating. I did know Hudson was a river, but I just drew pictures. Just drew pictures. Yeah, like pictures of the Empire State Building talking to the Rockefeller Center.
Nice.
Picture of the Staten Island Ferry.
Staten Island Ferry is interesting because it's actually, since like 97, I think, it's free. So it's no longer, you don't need a nickel.
You don't need nothing.
You need nothing.
Oh, the girl from the one recording, the third one we listened to.
Cynthia Gooding.
Yes. Cynthia Gooding. The person who was interviewing Bob Dylan at the end of the version of the song that you put on.
Yeah, it was on her show. Yeah.
Right. I was like, who's Cynthia Gooding? She has a lovely voice. I want to know about this person. So let me give you a quick biography of Cynthia Gooding.
Oh.
She was born in Minnesota in 1924. She lived in Mexico City for
So you just liked her voice, and so you just like deep dived into this girl.
Well, yeah, because I was like, folk singers, whatever.
Folk Singer's Choice?
Yeah. It's like, what is that? What a fun little radio show. Yeah. I want to know more about her. Sounds like some NPR shit. Was some NPR shit.
She was born in Minnesota.
Which is where Bob Dylan was born.
It's true.
I remembered. She learned folk music while she lived in Mexico City, and she came back to the United States to where? New York City.
New York City.
So it's all relevant. Just so you know.
Of all the places to come back to, New York City.
She sings in Spanish, Italian, and Turkish.
No way.
She actually married a Turkish guy.
Nice.
The Elektra Records
Elektra.
president, I guess the guy who founded Elektra Records, found her at a folk party in Greenwich Village where everything was popping off.
I mean, a folk party. We've all been there.
He had trepidations about her because of the way she spoke and like the fact that she sung songs from other countries. Is like, that seems a little weird. Seems a little appropriative. And then he was like, "What's up with
I'm
this
sure
girl?"
He did not think that.
No, that's what he's quoted as saying.
Really?
Yeah. No, he didn't say the word appropriative, but he's like, "I don't think that's like kosher." Again, didn't say
Oh,
the
you
word
shouldn't
kosher.
be taking from other songs.
Right.
Okay, I got
Yeah,
you.
from other countries. Like, you're not of that culture. It seems weird that you'd be singing the songs of those people when you're not of those people. Yeah, and somebody at the party was like, "No, she's Castilian. Like, she's
from Spain.
Yeah, it's okay."
She also does have a very unique voice.
Yeah, because you can't place the accent at all.
No. Yeah.
I initially thought British, but no, not British.
Yeah.
She recorded La Bamba before Richie Valens did, like 3 years before.
Oh.
Para bailar la bamba se necesita. Para bailar la bamba se necesita una poca de gracia, otra cosita y arriba iré. Yo no soy para andar a por ti seré, por ti seré, por ti seré.
Hosted Folk Singer's Choice on WBAI in New York City. First ever radio interview with Bob Dylan, which is during that segment.
Yeah.
Which I did not know.
That would have been, again, 62. Yeah, it would have been right before he was, he did it. He recorded, I guess he would have recorded it. I don't know exactly, but January. I think he did, and then he recorded stuff in her apartment.
Oh.
Later, I think. But yeah, the January one is what we listened to. January 13th, I think, 1962. So right after.
Yeah, it sounds like, because that was when it was during like the 60s, late 50s, 60s when the show was going on, I think. Moved to Spain for a little while, record flamenco music.
Nice.
It worked for the National Endowment of the Humanities, which I don't know what that is. And then traveled and toured until her death in 88 in New Jersey. So, but it sounds like she was a big, important thing in the folk scene because she did kind of like that guy you talk about where he traveled around the country and like recorded.
Oh, yeah, Alan
people.
Lomax. John and Alan Lomax, yeah.
Obviously, it wasn't back so far away when people would have rare access to recordings, which is why it was like a big deal that Alan Lomax did.
Right.
But still, like, specifically focusing on the folk scene, not just in America, but internationally. That was pretty cool.
She caught a moment, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it seemed like to me, because even in the full bootleg, which we will listen to at one point, she does talk about, like, next week we've got this guy coming up. And it's like, every week or however long it was on or how often, I don't know. But, yeah, she would always have a new act, and they would always just play songs, and she would always talk in the same vein. I mean, if the version that we had, this was the last song that he played, and there's a great line right at the end where she's like,
"When you're rich and famous, you're gonna wear the hat too."
Oh, I'm never gonna become rich and famous.
And you're never gonna take off the hat either.
No.
And this has been Folk Singer's Choice, and I'm Cynthia Gooding. I'll be here next week at the same time.
It's such a cute moment because it's, again, I think it speaks to the whole theme of this episode, which is like, you have somebody looking ahead and he doesn't think that he's going to, achieve those heights or whatever. He's just a kid playing folk music. And then we have, for lack of a better word, an old man who's looking back on his life and talking about his youth and talking about what brought him to this crazy honor of winning a Nobel Prize in literature. I mean, what a fucking crazy thing to have happened. I mean, so I guess this is our segue, natural segue, right into it. So let's talk about it. So Kelly, just right off the bat, we listened to it probably multiple times each. What do you think? What did you think? Somebody who, we've heard crooner, we've heard, triplicate, Bob Dylan. That's the latest that we've got. We now just listened to easily the earliest. I mean, John Birch was the earliest. This was a couple months after this. John Birch was recorded. So this is going to take the cake for a long time. There's only, I think, about 3 more like official recordings that are around this time. So this is going to be for a long time our earliest recording. So what do you make of it all?
It's my favorite. But talking about the Nobel.
Oh yeah,
speech,
yeah. That, I mean, just making of it, not just the song, but like
it's a lot to wrap your head around. It's really interesting, especially being somebody who hasn't followed the whole ride. And I have no context for it. It's like I am today in 2017 listening to this song that was at the beginning of his everything, and then also in 2017 hearing this acceptance speech for a huge honor. Whether or not Bob Dylan cares about it, it's, that's fine. But it's really cool. I don't know. He also has a wonderful speaking voice. I want him to narrate all the things.
Yeah, I kind of love it. I at first I was just, it's jarring when you first start.
When I received the Nobel Prize for Literature, I got to wondering exactly how my songs related to literature. I wanted to reflect on it and see where the connection was. I'm going to try to articulate that to you, and most likely it will go in a roundabout way, but I hope what I say will be worthwhile and purposeful. If I was to go back to the dawning of it all, I guess I'd have to start with Buddy Holly.
It was nice to hear more about his life. The more context I have, watching the movie was huge.
Yeah. Supplemental Series Volume 1, or number 1 if you want to go back and listen to that.
And this was really cool too. It's interesting. I always have in the back of my mind, how honest is Bob Dylan? Like, are these a fantastical story, or is this really his life, his earnest, how he feels about this? But even if it's not, I think that might almost be more of a testament to why he should receive a prize in literature, if he could spin this so truthfully. I also love the little piano underneath because it's so NPR. It's like reading Rainbow is just happening, and Bob Dylan's telling me a story, and it's amazing.
It's amazing. In a lot of ways, well, what was weird about it is that I loved how it started. Buddy Holly, I think all of the connections to Buddy Holly, and this weird story about seeing Buddy Holly and then Buddy Holly looking at him, come on, Jesus Christ. And like, you feel like you just took Buddy Holly's power and then he died. And so now you're like the reincarnation of,
that was the gist, right?
That was the gist. And then it's like immediately name drop Leadbelly because he got to. And so I like this idea that to say that like literature is just something on a page, I think is way too, small. It's way too small. And so giving it to Bob Dylan to flesh out, maybe not the greatest idea in the world, because I don't think that he cares about the idea of stretching it for others to kind of get under the umbrella. I think that somebody like Leonard Cohen would probably have treated this a little bit differently, because they just have different temperaments. But that's like the only one I could possibly think that could kind of be on this level. There's plenty, I guess. I mean, that's kind of rude. There's plenty of great lyricists out there that could have totally done this. But I think Bob Dylan's output, obviously, you're listening to a Bob Dylan podcast. I don't think you need to be told how great he could possibly be. Though there was a couple moments, though, for me. Not only did I really love the literature stuff, but I also liked it because there was a moment there where he got to rhapsodizing like he did back in the 1960s. I tried to do a Bob Dylan type read the way that he would read his poetry. I did that in the episode Talk of John Birch, Paranoid Blues, where I read that long poem to Tony Glover, and I tried to read it like Bob Dylan, not Bob Dylan today, who came into the studio that one time.
Batman Bob Dylan.
Not Batman Bob Dylan, but Bob Dylan. So I was doing that poem.
By listening to all the early folk artists and singing the songs yourself, you pick up the vernacular, you internalize it, you sing it in the ragtime blues, work songs, Georgia Sea Shanties, the Appalachian ballads and cowboy songs. You hear all the finer points and you learn the details. You know what it's all about, taking a pistol out, putting it back in your pocket, whipping your way through traffic, talking in the dark. You know that Steiger Lee was a bad man and that Frankie was a good girl. You know that Washington is a bourgeois town, and you heard the deep-pitched voice of John the Revelator, and you saw the Titanic sink in a boggy creek.
And that felt like old Bob Dylan. It felt like I'm creating this poetic landscape Bob Dylan. And so that was really nice for me to see as somebody who's listened to Last Thoughts on Woody Guthrie and heard him in his poetry in multiple live occasions and on bootlegs and things like that. That's something that I think that the casual viewer, like you've never heard any of that stuff. So when he starts kind of getting on that groove, it's special. And he doesn't do it for the whole thing. He kind of just did it right there at the beginning, which I thought also spoke to like the power of song. Because I think the weakest parts are obviously when he gets to the 3 books, the book report, which, we'll get to the plagiarism thing in a moment, but like, Moby Dick, All Quiet on the Western Front, and the Odyssey. So I've read 2 of them. I haven't read Moby Dick, but I guess we have the book report, so we don't need it. Also, we can go to Bob Dylan, to go ahead and get that information. So we're good. I think one thing that can't be overstated at all is Clinton Highland notes when Dylan was taking these songs in like Penny's Farm and turning it into, Hard Times in New York Town, he, quote, saw himself as part of this process, as an interpreter of the hoary old traditions of self-expression, not as an originator of new forms of song. So he wasn't making stuff up out of whole cloth. He was picking apart old rhythms and old sounds and putting them together. And I think he's kind of been doing that his entire career. And so Bob Dylan taking stuff, we all take stuff. And nobody's under the microscope the way that Bob Dylan is. I mean, that's also a very important point to make, is that if all of us were under these microscopes, most of our lives would be shams. We would just be complete liars, and we would be stealing left and right. The love letters we write our significant others are fake. The feelings that we feed them are from TV, from a movie they haven't seen. You know what I mean? Like, that's what life is. That's what culture is. That's what you're not living out of a vacuum. You are living in a world. And Bob Dylan, unfortunately, is just microscope right over you. And he deserves it. I mean, he's a popular entertainer. I mean, he gets what he could go away anytime. But what do you want?
Apparently you want him to be wholly original all the time.
Well, I don't. No, I don't at all.
No,
some people do, yeah. Oh, yeah, I think so. But they wouldn't even accept it. Because I think some people that think that they want that back assume that there is a period where he was wholly original.
Which never existed. No
one has ever existed. That's never existed. That's never been a thing. Unfortunately. And there's just no way to go back to that first farmer, was laying down some sweet synth, for the pharaohs and stuff,
Right, yeah. Tapping some sticks together rhythmically.
Oh, yeah. And then everyone's having a dance party. That's where Walk Like an Egyptian came from. Right. You see? And that they just took that. They didn't invent that. The Egyptians were the ones that did that.
How dare they?
They walked like Egyptians.
Walk like an Egyptian. Walk like an Egyptian.
Yeah, I think just to kind of touch on the plagiarizing thing really quick, I love Noisy's take on it. Their headline was, the book report is due tomorrow morning and it's midnight already, and Bob Dylan has to get going. And they had a great quote here that I'll just quote right now. It says, admittedly, Dylan began and will likely end his career recording covers before he decided to toss biblical archetypes and pop culture references together and set them to electric folk rock. So he's a synthesist by nature. He was doing this before. He went crazy. That's what we're praising him for. And now he's kind of back to it. He's back to covering. He's back to looking at that songbook and sort of seeing what he can do with it, which I think is kind of a perfect little circle. The other thing I'll say is I think Slate, word by word, they just tore into the speech. They just wanted to get him on every single thing, which is fine because he totally plagiarized it. That's fine. But one thing, they contacted academics, and one of them, who was a Dylan fan, and it was like me, no alarm bells rang in his head while this was going on. He was like, cool, it happened. It is what it is. You can get upset with it all you want. Another one, quite rightly, said that Dylan is cribbing from a contemporary publication that is under copyright instead of from Moby Dick itself, which is in the public domain. And then another said that if he turned this in as a student, he would fail him. So that's, and I said it's a good thing it's not up to him. So
because it's true.
It's true. I thought it was funny in the end. I mean, those are the books. You either read them in school or you kind of don't. I found it hilarious right off the bat. And I think anybody really reading this, we want to talk about plagiarism and stuff. Anybody actually listening to this, he immediately says that he read Tale of Two Cities, Don Quixote, one of my favorite books of all time, 1,000-page book. He said he read all these books in grammar school. Homie, you ain't reading this in grammar school. So immediately I feel like everything he's saying right away is like you're calling it into question immediately.
Yeah.
The New Yorker had a great article and they just said, welcome to Dylan self-mythologizing 101. So I think that's it. I think it's kind of hard. It just happened. So I don't really know what else to say. It's a really great speech and I think it's worth your time and energy, even if you don't know much about Bob Dylan. I think it's fascinating that we now have a singer-songwriter who has won this prize, and I think it changes the dynamics a little bit.
And that's what songs are too. Our songs are alive in the land of the living. But songs are unlike literature. They're meant to be sung, not read. The words in Shakespeare's plays were meant to be acted on the stage, just as lyrics in songs are meant to be sung, not read on a page. And I hope some of you get the chance to listen to these lyrics the way they were intended to be heard. in concert or on record, or however people are listening to songs these days. I return once again to Homer, who says, "Sing in me, O muse, and through me tell the story."
And Dylan's going to die one day. But these songs are going to live on forever. And these songs are going to be a part of a very particular cultural institution that I found myself going through and saying, I'm going to read a book by a Nobel Prize winner. I want to know. I mean, I wouldn't have read Günter Grass. I wouldn't have read Doris Lessing. I mean, they pick obscure writers, quote unquote, obscure to American audiences, but there's a lot of integrity that goes with the Nobel Prize in Literature. These are people who have worked their whole lives. I mean, this is the life's work. People are awarded this for their life's work, not for one book in particular. And I feel like 100 years from now, if we're still around, pray emoji, some kid is going to look up Bob Dylan's long gone. People aren't listening to him at all. It's like the Bentley brothers. They're gone. Bentley boys. They're gone. He's going to be like, what's Bob Dylan? And he's going to be a fun factoid, the only musician to win. Well, I mean, I hope the kid's like, what's music? I hope he's not like that. What's music? It'd be terrible. But if he's like, what's Bob Dylan? And he were to explore it, he's going to have this treasure trove of all these people like us who have spent our time either talking about it or Dylanologists like poring over everything. I mean, this won't all be in vain unless we all get washed away. But in theory, there's a kid out there who's going to stumble upon this, and it's going to change his life. He hit the nail on the head, and I think that's why it's important. And that's why I support Bob Dylan. I'm going to make a stand here. I support Bob Dylan getting the Nobel Prize in Literature. I think it is literature.
Bold.
I think songs are literature. I think he's right. They got to be played, not read. I think it's hard to read his lyrics and be like, this is great. Some of them are awesome. I mean, No Time to Think, I think is probably the one that I think of right off the bat, episode 9 for us. That's the most poetic of all of it. If you were to read it, there's a lot of evocative language and stuff like that. But you read Hard Times in New York Town, I mean, it works great as a song, but it's not poetry. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. All I can think about the whole time you were saying that stuff about Bob Dylan being timeless in so many words was Battlestar Galactica, by the way.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I mean, again, yeah. Well, I guess true. So we might all die as a species, but God damn it if All Along the Watchtower isn't rolling out there in the universe and someone's going to grab it.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
I thought that if I assign numbers to the notes.
All right, so I think we'll go ahead and end this episode.
Sounds really good. I like that.
Yeah, I think the only thing that this week it made me think a lot about this idea of having this life over here and this life over there. And it made me think a lot about this podcast. The reason we started this podcast was for us to hang out more, which we do. And then I think the other part of it was to try to like listen to stuff and like sort of change your mode of thinking. At least for me, I wanted something that I had to stick to, I had to have on time, because I find my discipline lacking sometimes. I find my mind going off sometimes. So this has been really important for me. And then this week, Dave is getting married on my birthday in Virginia. And I never responded to his thing that said, RSVP or not. Because obviously I kind of told him I wasn't going to make it because I just came from there.
Right.
And so he texted me today and he was like, yeah, I didn't get an RSVP. And I was like, dude, this sucks. And I think this podcast reminds me again that it's like, I want to have a life that I'm able to do those type of things. And I think thinking about someone like Bob Dylan, life is long. It's something that you need to attack. And I think Bob Dylan in 61, 62 attacked it. And I think that that's something that I'm thinking a lot about right now is attacking, because I don't want to be at the mercy of somebody else's PTO. I don't want to be at the mercy of not being able to go and see whoever the fuck I want because I'm spending money on bullshit and time wasters and things like that. So that was my weird takeaway at the end of the week. So I hope to converge someday again. Maybe have him on the podcast.
Yeah.
One day. Be in Virginia and then you'll be in space.
If
and
only.
we'll be doing. You'll be a space raider. You'll be shooting the space like
and
Bob Dylan is. Yeah, Wiggle Wiggle is a great song. That's our national anthem up here.
That would be my best life. Oh my god, do you know how happy?
That'd be amazing. We would all be happy. So okay, so let's go ahead and close out this week with our recommendations. So Kelly, I know the trepidation here. Weird week. I feel like in a weird way our Spotify playlists have become so good. I think we've solved the problem of the random song. So I don't have any fears anymore of like, sort of trying to fit one song in, like trying to remember to go back and listen to one song while you're doing all the rest of it. We basically create dope ass playlists all week with stuff that kind of works and doesn't always have to work. It doesn't really matter. I think we've solved that problem. This week I listened to things way more than I have. To be honest, I probably wouldn't have listened to this song except for right before we recorded because I know this song like the back of my hand. But it was really fun to like have this playlist essentially on repeat and to be able to go back and forth through it, shuffle it, get it, whatever. So I think we've solved that problem, which is great. And I think people who maybe are weirdly trepidatious about that too, I recommend putting it into a playlist that you listen to for the week or subscribing to ours, and you can definitely sing along.
Yeah.
But I think that takes up a lot of your week too, where you're kind of just listening to this playlist. There's not always a lot of other, and that was your problem.
What happened to me, because I was like, this is a 2-hour playlist that we've created. So I was thinking about songs that could go on it, and I was listening to it, so it was like this little echo chamber of Bob Dylan-ish, New York-centric music.
Right.
But that wasn't a bad thing. It was a lot of fun stuff. I went back and I listened to DMX a little bit, because when it's Dark and Hell's Hot and...
it's like 20 years old now.
Flesh of My Flesh and Blood of My Blood. Yeah, 98.
98,
yeah.
Okay.
Both of them came out in 98.
That's crazy.
I had both those albums and I listened to them all the time. So getting to put that on the playlist because he's from Yonkers.
Yeah, that was a nice to see. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was fun.
I've been eating long enough now. Stop being greedy. Let's keep it real, partner. Give to the needy. Ribs is touchy, so don't make me wait. Fuck around and I'm gonna bite you. Snatch the plate. I can flip that flow. I can stick that hoe. I can get that dough. You know I'm with that, yo. Ain't a thing about this shit I can't do, I haven't seen. But when it gets dark, it's like a nigga's having dreams. All nightmares, the light dance, dessert. Got me like it. Everybody wants to hurt, but paranoid. So I strike out at whatever. Closest thing to me is gonna get.
Also, anytime that I can listen to 36 Chambers, I will do that because I love that album too. Yeah. So while I didn't necessarily, I didn't have one thing that was kind of, that I could recommend that I was super into. I didn't listen to Smashing Pumpkins for what it's worth.
I think that's important. Everyone who listened along for this moment is deeply disappointed.
But Billy Corgan and James Iha, I thought we were going to talk about this at length.
Yeah.
No, we're not.
Sorry, this is not a Smashing Pumpkins podcast.
Although I did possibly coin the phrase.
Oh, God.
Chicago grunge. Who knows if that's a thing?
Nice.
I decided that's what Smashing Pumpkins are.
That's fair.
I'm sure it is a thing.
That's fair.
And then also, I guess, just another podcast, Throwing Shade, which I've listened to for years now. Probably my favorite podcast.
That's surprised you never said that yet.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But yeah, it talks about feminist and queer issues, and they're hilarious. They're both comedians, basically, in their own right. And, check that out if you don't listen to that.
We do listen to a lot of podcasts, so we'll try to save them and slowly sort of put them out there, our favorites. So for me, it was a little bit... it was kind of the same. Not a lot of straight new music, because I thought a lot about the New York, and I went through all these New York songs, because I am a weirdo and I keep crazy playlists of every single state and every big city, and songs, whenever they mention them, I throw them in. So I'm primed for this. I was I could put this out right now and I have 400 New York songs. So I tried to just choose haphazardly, just sort of oh, cool, yeah, touche, cool, I was there before, whatever. I just not a whole lot of thought, but it made it a little bit better because then you kind of did. So then it was fun to have that sort of mix. So I definitely listened to a shit ton of this music. Spotify also did a summer rewind where it told you the last, your most listened to songs over the last however many years you've had the service, which was amazing because I'm listening to Antarctica Vespucci, I'm listening to Gaslight Anthem and Direct Hit and all these bands that just totally were my summers. Mastodon came out in 2014. And then the last thing I finished 1861. I'm still reading The Destructive War, so I'm kind of in Civil War mode. So I want to recommend Titus Andronicus's the monitor, which sort of uses the Civil War as like a backdrop or a metaphor, if you will, for his personal life. And so there's a lot of allusions to the war, but also a very deeply personal record.
I'm going back to New Jersey. I do believe they've had enough for me.
Something special.
No.
Yes. We are going to choose our next supplemental episode. Now, I haven't showed you any of this, but what we're going to do is there's something that we have talked about before called Theme Time Radio Hour, which is what Bob Dylan hosted on Sirium or XM or whatever the fuck. Sirium?
Sure.
Sirius. One of the two. I don't know. Back in the day. So 2005, maybe, something like that. Anyways, he has about 100 episodes, 98, if you count put the 1 and 2 parters together. So what we're going to do is, instead of random.org picking a random song, because you never win. You're never going to win. And I feel bad for you. We have a list from 1 to 98. And instead of you never getting to win again, I'm going to pick 3 random numbers with 3 random words. And you're going to tell me which one of them you want to do. And that'll be the episode of Theme Time Radio Hour that we do.
That's nice. It's like the illusion of choice.
The illusion of choice. Yeah. Because, again, you're just never going to get it. And if you get it this episode, I think we're done with the podcast and it's over. So, all right. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go to random.org. So we're going to go from 1 to 98.
Do you think random.org knows all the free press we give them to all 10 of the people that listen to this?
I really hope that everybody goes to random.org and plays all their games. All right, so we're still going to have you guess. So guess 1 to 98.
23.
59.
Yep, sounds right.
Let's just remember what they are. So 59.
Wait, I get 3 chances to guess?
3 chances. Yeah, 3 chances to guess because you'll never get it right. So that you're still going to be humiliated. But at the end, you're going to get to choose something.
That's nice.
All right, what's the next one?
Switch.
What's the next one?
43.
Oh, 47.
Come on now.
I know. What's the next one?
84.
35.
Okay. Yep.
All right. So 59, 47, and 35. All right. So
and these numbers correspond to the episode of Theme Time.
To the episode of Theme Time that we're going to do. All right. So women's names.
Oh.
It's also, that's fun right off the bat. Fools. Interesting. Or dreams. Fools, dreams, or women's names. Women's names. Like with a plural. Women's names.
Well, yeah, I imagine it's going to be like...
Yeah, women's names, yeah.
Lola, whatever that song is, right?
Layla.
Got me on my knees.
Layla.
But there's also a song about a Lola. There's always a song about Lola. Her name was Lola. She was a something. You know.
Sure.
That's a song.
What do you want?
Dream sounds the most interesting.
Dream sounds the most interesting. All right, dreams it is. So that episode's going to be coming out within a week or two. So we're probably going to record it later on this week. Look out for that. So we're going to keep doing this. We are not going to do this on this episode ever again. So we are going to pretend as if Theme Time Radio Hour never existed on this podcast here. But we will continue to do this at the end of every Theme Time. So we'll pick the next one. Yes. All right. So now let's go ahead and go back to our OG list.
So like once a month I'll get to win. I'll get to pick a thing. Once a month.
Once a month. Once
That's
a month.
Nice.
Yes. All right. So let's go ahead and choose my favorite part. My favorite part. because it's fun. Like, theme time's great, but I don't know what dreams means. I've heard it.
Do you think it's going to be really on the nose and it's going to be like that song's like dream?
It could be. I mean, it goes everywhere. It could. Who knows? We're going to find out in a week or two.
Yes, we will.
Whenever I get around to it. Okay, so we're back to our definitive SOTW list, which you can find on our website. I'm going to go ahead and take away Hard Times.
I'm glad you've gotten better about that.
So that is gone. We are now at 527. Ooh, God, it's getting thin over here. All right. So from 1 to 98 to 1 to 527, what is your guess?
My odds have improved. 493.
Ooh, 356.
Yeah.
Not even close. 493, you said?
Yeah, sure.
All right, 493 would have been in a different timeline. You're Gonna Quit Me, which is from Good As I've Been to You in 1992. So this is him kind of returning back to his folk roots, just him and a guitar.
But before the one that everybody loves, that was in 97, right? Time Out of Mind.
Right before, yeah. Okay. Absolutely. All right, and then I chose 356, random.org. Random.org for all your random needs. 356. Ring Them Bells off of 1989's Oh Mercy. One of my favorite songs.
Oh, really?
By Bob Dylan. Yes. It's a beautiful song. Very, very excited about it. So there is multiple versions. There's the Oh Mercy version. There's a live version. Sufjan Stevens actually covers this as well. And it's on the Bootleg Series Volume 8. All right, and so we'll play a little clip of it here.
Did we do another song from Oh Mercy? Because I remember saying the Oh Mercy version a bunch of times.
The Oh Mercy version, that was not Days of 49.
Oh, it's the one
God Knows.
God Knows, yeah.
Yeah, that was God Knows.
So that was a song that might have been on that album.
Might have
that
been
was
on
the cut that he did for that album. Should it have gone on it, but it did not.
Correct.
Is Sign on the Window on that album?
No, not at all. That's about 15 years before that. No, it's just him and well, I guess there is a little dissonant guitars there, but no, it's just him and his piano,
Organ,
basically.
sounds like.
Yeah, we'll get deeper into it, but yeah, this is a beautiful song.
You just want to make another great playlist.
I do. What do I want to know? I want to know the history of bells. Why do we use bells?
No.
Why do we use bells?
Oh, no.
Just what's going on. We are a real podcast, by the way, and thanks for listening. We've gone a little long. You can follow us at SOTW Pod everywhere. Our website is that. Our Twitter is that. Our Instagram is that. Our Tumblr is that. So please follow along. Please let us know what you think. And yeah, the links to our personal ones are on there too.
Not that I really have one.
Yeah.
But you do.
I do. And Kelly's on there all the time. So we are just constantly at your beck and call, really. If you call, we will beck for sure. There's no doubt about that. So we just want to thank you for listening. It's been a pleasure. We will be back next week.
Hell yes.